NASCAR hammers half of Stewart-Haas Racing with a massive penalty. Wait, hold on. I think y'all gave me last year's script, right? Oh no, this is new? They really got caught cheating again? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Reports are in. Penalty reports. We've got parts violations, safety violations, a crew chief and driver getting physical. But before we cover all that ugly stuff, how about some good news? Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series race at Atlanta Motor Speedway earned 4.55 million average viewers, up 33% compared to last year's Atlanta race, which did take place in mid-March. But viewership was up 5% versus the same weekend 1 year ago. That race was at Auto Club. A huge win for Fox Sports and NASCAR, especially considering the Truck and Xfinity Series races on Saturday were up 13 and 17% respectively compared to the same weekend last year. Great TV ratings this past weekend, capped off with an all-time classic 3-wide photo finish that's gone viral across social media. Actually cracked SportsCenter's top 10 plays Sunday night, although it got beat out by a routine softball groundout. Still a huge overall PR win for the entire NASCAR industry this past weekend. Today, Hendrick Motorsports announced their Xfinity Series driver lineup for 2024. The 17 car is back and will make its season debut in 2 weeks at Phoenix Raceway with William Byron behind the wheel. Byron will also drive the car at Darlington, also Pocono this summer, and Watkins Glen. Kyle Larson will drive the 17 at a couple of road courses, Circuit of the Americas, and the Chicago Street Race. This year, Cup drivers are allowed to run the Xfinity event. Chase Elliott will drive the car at Charlotte and the fall Darlington race, with Alex Bowman racing at New Hampshire over the summer, and Boris Said coming back to run Sonoma, California in June. Any Said heads still out there? Now that the fun stuff is out of the way, let's turn our attention to this week's penalty report. Joey Logano was issued a fine for a safety violation. During qualifying on Saturday, Logano was seen wearing a glove that did not meet proper SFI specifications. The in-car camera showed Joey Logano wearing almost like a baseball glove with webbing between the thumb and forefinger. Drivers often stick their hand out in the window opening at superspeedway style races to try and deflect additional air. Logano, with that larger glove, was trying to gain an unfair competitive advantage. Genius idea, quite honestly, but also very illegal. And not to tattletale here, but I've seen some tweets showing Logano may have used that same glove during Daytona 500 pole qualifying a week earlier. Joey Logano did win the pole for the Great American Race this time around. Took 2 weeks, but NASCAR finally caught on to what he was doing. This is an interesting situation though, because not only was there a competitive advantage to be gained, but there's also a safety component. That's what the fine was for. NASCAR's VP of Competition, Elton Sawyer, explained the difference on SiriusXM NASCAR radio this morning.
The reason I want to be really clear on that is that what happened at the racetrack and the way it was handled was strictly based on performance and using that device. Now, altering a SFI certified safety piece of apparel, that's a different topic that we'll discuss today.
And discuss it they did. Joey Logano was forced to start at the rear of the field on Sunday, had to serve a pass-through on lap 1. Today, he was issued a $10,000 fine. The first penalty was for the competitive violation. The fine is for the safety violation, and it's in line with previous safety penalties, like Chandler Smith last fall was given a $10,000 fine for not wearing a head sock during qualifying, which is against the rules. Fair penalty, in my opinion, but a very creative idea. I at least have to give Team Penske credit for trying. Did they need to try that hard? No, probably not, but still interesting. Another interesting penalty listed on this week's report comes from the Xfinity Series. J.J. Yaley's crew chief Jason Miller has been suspended for 2 races after he tracked down and physically confronted driver Kyle Weatherman. Miller was unhappy with how Weatherman raced J.J. Yaley on track and decided to take matters into his own hands. NASCAR typically frowns upon anyone other than drivers getting physical with each other. Like a few years ago, that one crew member who pulled Denny Hamlin to the ground, I'm pretty sure he got suspended for a couple weeks. If two drivers get into it, especially in the heat of the moment, NASCAR typically turns a blind eye. Wild stuff, 2-race suspension for Jason Miller. But now let's get to the Stewart-Haas Racing penalties. Early in the weekend, NASCAR confiscated the roof rails off of both Noah Gregson's number 10 and Ryan Preece's number 41. Today, NASCAR handed down L1 penalties. That means both the 41 and 10 teams will lose 35 driver and 35 owner points respectively. It's unknown at this point exactly what was wrong with these roof air deflectors, but it is worth noting these are not single source supplied next-gen parts. These are parts that are supplied by the teams themselves. So that's likely why this didn't rise to an L2 or an L3, because they didn't illegally modify a spec part or counterfeit a spec part like they got caught doing last year. Still a big penalty early in the season. Before the penalty, Ryan Preece was 24th in points, Noah Gragson was 26th. After the penalty, they're both well outside the top 30. I think Ryan Preece now is at 0 points for the season, and Noah Gragson is at like -6. He's in the negatives, for goodness sake. An absolute disaster. Why? This is what I was getting at all off-season long. Again, I'm not a Stewart-Haas Racing hater. I'm a doubter. I'm not rooting for Stewart-Haas Racing's downfall. I'm just calling it like I'm seeing it. From last year to this year, they've made absolutely zero positive changes. They lost a Hall of Fame driver, they lost major sponsorship, and they made no significant leadership changes as far as I can tell. The same people who were in charge when the team got caught with a counterfeit part a year ago are likely still in charge today. That's the thing. This isn't the first time Stewart-Haas has been penalized. I joked at the top of the show, but this is like the fourth major penalty Stewart-Haas has been hit with since the next gen was introduced. I'm trying to think, Hendrick had the louver penalties last year that got overturned by an independent appeals panel, but then NASCAR still blasted them for something the very next week. Legacy Motor Club has had, I think, a couple of like L1 penalties, but Stewart-Haas is at like 4 now. October 2022, Kevin Harvick gets a 100-point penalty because his team illegally modified a single-source part. That same month, Cole Custer got hit with a huge penalty, but that was for, trying to manipulate the finish of a race. Wasn't illegally modifying any parts. May of last year, Chase Briscoe's team gets hit with a 120-point death sentence for counterfeiting a next-gen part. And last October at Talladega, Kevin Harvick had his second-place finish disqualified because NASCAR found that the windshield fasteners were not secure. Penalty after penalty after penalty. As far as we can tell, they've all been 100% legit. NASCAR's not going out of their way to pick on Stewart-Haas. Stewart-Haas just can't get their together. This is why I doubt Stewart-Haas Racing. They've made all these mistakes the past couple of years and done nothing to correct them. It hurts to see a once championship caliber NASCAR Cup Series organization trip over themselves repeatedly. I'm not sure this year could have gotten off to a much worse start. Already 70 points worth of penalties. All your drivers are outside the top 20 in points. Front Row was just promoted to a tier 1 key Ford partner. That doesn't necessarily affect Stewart-Haas Racing, but look around. Toyota has 3 key partner teams. Chevy has 3 key partner teams. Ford now has 4. Between Penske, Roush, Front Row, and Stewart-Haas, which team is on the decline? It's pretty clearly Stewart-Haas. With Front Row's promotion, I think there's real questions about Stewart-Haas's future, their future standing with Ford. I doubted them all off-season, and unfortunately these first 2 weeks I think are proving my doubts correct. It's a long season, long way to go. All we've really seen are super speedway races. Maybe they've hit on something. We'll see what the new Ford Mustang Dark Horse looks like at intermediates and short tracks. But I am not confident. I'm rooting for Stewart-Haas. I like Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, Preece, Gregson. Great redemption story. I want them to be successful. I just have no faith in this organization right now. I'm sorry, until they can start to pull themselves out of this spiral, I'm going to continue to be a Stewart-Haas Racing doubter. Wishing them the best of luck at Vegas this weekend. Phoenix, again, we're getting away from the super speedways. Now we'll really know which teams have brought it to begin the season. I'll hold my breath. Maybe Stewart-Haas surprises us these next few weeks and gets things back on track. But -6 points? 2 races into the season? Oh, that's exactly the opposite of what the doctor ordered. I just hope if this season continues to be a disaster, Tony Stewart holds up his end of the bargain and is willing to make hard decisions and big changes before the 2025 season. At some point, all of these mistakes should be unacceptable. Real change should hopefully be on the horizon. Big penalty, big news, not surprising. The moment those parts were confiscated on Saturday, I figured something was coming this week. What's your reaction? Let me know down in the comment section below. That's gonna do it for this episode, y'all. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR every single day here on Out of the Groove. And a huge thank you, as always, to my very generous Patreon supporters. It's been fun doing NASCAR fantasy with y'all the past couple of weeks. I'm holding down a spot inside the top 10, but trying to move up the rankings here during the West Coast swing. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you again very, very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day.